Hello, Internet. It is time. Time once again for another Wednesday's serial. And to start, we have the conclusion. Issue 26, which should have been 25 of Batgirl. And we missed a beat last month with 0 Year, as I'm sure many are familiar, and you really should skip that issue, but if you didn't, now it's 2 months in between. The kind of beat really has been missed because now there's this kind of interlude into basically the build up to one of the most important issues of the run thus far. And beyond that, also, there's kind of this momentum, and Batgirl's very in her head, very sassy about things. She's just like one of the villains says, I got her. Do you, Gretel? Do you really? Like, there's just something in the tone that didn't feel quite right, but I'm wondering if maybe I'm just missing some of the momentum from what was, because now it's just been so long. But what I'm really hoping, what didn't happen, was Batgirl was okay, and then there was a small break, and then Gail Simone came back, and it was excellent. And now there's been a small break, and I'm hoping we didn't almost reset in a way. So next month, we'll see, but this could be a bit of a downward churn now, and I'm hoping this book can come back to where it was, and I'm really hoping they can get rid of this cover artist, because this is ridiculous. Next up, we have Batman 26, a continuation of 0 Year in the Dark City arc, I guess. This is not... With this issue, to me, it's very clear that this Snyder run, this 12-issue ongoing bit or whatever, is a down point. It's not as good as it was before. Of course, before we had some of the coolest and best Batman stuff that has been for years. So that's true, but with these, it hasn't been as good month to month as other Bat books in the month, at least in my opinion. And part of it is because there isn't this clear idea. Like, the Owls thing was new and clever and interesting, and obviously the Joker story. But this, I don't know what this is. There's kind of a young Bruce Wayne versus Gordon on kind of a small case. There's this internal Wayne Tech policy stuff going on that could be its own story. Obviously, the Gordon thing could be its own story. And then there's this whole Riddler thing. And then there's supposed to be a whole Dark City thing going on where all the power's out, but this entire issue seems really bright for that, and it's also very Bruce Wayne centric, and so there's not really any Batman at all, and for that it's really weird because you don't get any parallel at a time when you really feel you need it. It really is becoming the adventures of young Bruce Wayne, which is what I was always kind of not so on board with. So it's interesting, but it's all over the place, and it maybe will come together interestingly, but by the time we get there, it's going to be so watered down, it's never going to be as great. And I think it would have been interesting if we had this here and there was all these different points, and maybe they kind of culminated, but right now we're getting so many little snippets of things that it just doesn't feel like it's amounting to anything issue after issue, especially given that the last 2 issues were these oversized gala events, and not so much, and really they held as much weight as this issue, which, given everything, the fact that we're still meandering around feels really weak now that we're here. So, again, hoping this picks up. It's not a bad comic, but given all the ideas and everything presented in here, I think, whereas it's good to kind of muddle and confuse things, especially in a detective story idea, it doesn't really have a focus at all. It wants to be too many things at once, and there's no need for that, especially in a Batman title. 238. Oh my gosh. This issue was really awesome. Most of it's about Savoy pulling the whole thing that's been going on recently with, like, the person who wanted to be arrested and why. Except it's done a little more interestingly, I'd say, kind of showing more of the world, because everything in here is so zany and fun. And usually, you get a cool new, like, food power idea maybe once an issue or so. There's tons in here, and enough to make up for every issue that didn't. And oh my gosh, there's just crazy in-jokes on nearly, like, every other page. A little bit in here when they're eating at the commissary. Want dessert? Too bad, there's no dessert in jail. Oh my god. And there's just all this crazy stuff. And hell, even if you weren't reading Chew, I feel like you could pick up this issue and enjoy it. You wouldn't get everything, and you wouldn't understand maybe half of what's going on, but it still would be a fun ride. There's still so much going in here, and this issue is a chunk of the story its own. Awesome stuff. Obviously, go read Chew. It's only 38 issues. I know, only 38 issues. I mean, go pick up the trades or whatever. You won't find better comics, really. This is just awesome stuff every time. So we have Hawkeye 14, and Kate Bishop is looking for a little bit of work, and she ends up trying to help these gay couples find some orchids that were stolen from them, and it winds around, and it's just kind of this bizarre thing, and it's really crazy, because again, this book's reading kind of like a weird Image or Wildstorm or something kind of comic, but it's totally Marvel, and I don't know, but some of the flavor is missing, and honestly, I was finally getting interested in Clint and his whole thing to just be on Kate Bishop. I don't find it as engaging, because I don't find her a very interesting character, especially here. I've seen her in other books where I actually liked her more, and I hate it because I always try to push for reading female characters when I can. But this is a great example of why that doesn't work sometimes. She's just a girl out trying to make it on her own, but she can't afford it, so she's doing these weird cases. It doesn't hold any of the gravitas. It doesn't have the action. This book doesn't have the layouts that really sold me on this book to begin with, much less the kind of weird tension stuff going on. And it's just a smaller thing, but there's still some fun moments. I'm definitely going to keep up with it for now, but I wouldn't say this is a jumping on point by any means. Then I wanted to bring up a book I've heard no one talk about, and I've only actually seen it now that the end of the year is coming. All the best of 2013 lists, because I get it for other things, but for comics especially, and I've tried to do it myself, but with comics, the way they work, it's really weird. Even try to remember it was at the beginning of the year, then miniseries, nothing correlates, and everything rotates around the summer, which is really all year anyways, so it's like these weird half-year things. It's weird. But anyways, there's this book, Zero, and it's a kind of assassin, espionage-y sort of thing, but what's really crazy is, obviously it's all mired, and the characters are all secretive, but each story, each issue is very much its own thing, and you can tell by the covers alone, but also, there's some consistency, but each one's kind of its own deal, and each one has its own set of artists. Each one looks and feels different, and it's just building this thing, and every one has a lot of crazy stuff and some love for being a comic. And if you haven't checked out this book, I'd highly recommend doing so. I feel like, with any luck, this will be a sleeper hit, and these issues are probably going to become relatively hard to find in a bit of a short time. I'm hoping that they're collected, but it's one comic where I wouldn't know how they do it, and honestly, rarely say this anymore, having the issues of this book are going to feel so much better, especially if the biggest reason to get a trade is because there's no ads, right? And the book reads the kind of a way it should, and not have layout splice or anything like that. There are like no ads in these books. Even the inside covers are pages. So really highly recommend that you guys check this out. I couldn't even really go into like plot details or anything, because a lot of it is really just like action movie stuff and starting right in the action. But it's crazy awesome, and it's fun, and yeah, you guys totally should check it out. I read another one a couple weeks ago, and I can't find it right now because my comic room is a friggin' mess. But Burn the Orphanage is awesome. Again, a total just action, crazy, fun book. There's only going to be like 3 issues. But if you're a fan of like Streets of Rage or Double Dragon or something like that, and total just like beat 'em up 80s style movie sort of thing, this comic is that to the T. It's just a fun romp. The art style is just great, a touch cartoony to make the hyperviolence fun rather than creepy, and just really awesome, and the sort of thing that I'd love to see get a little bit more love than it normally would. So yeah, go do that. And then I'm waiting for it, but once Turtles comes around again, you and I, good sirs and madams, will be talking some Ninja Turtles soon. So, yes. So hey, it's been a while. Please like, subscribe. Of course you're subscribed, otherwise how would you find me? And please, any questions or comments, leave them below. Would love to talk shop with some people, and let's just, love some comics. 'Tis the season to get bundled up and read comics. There's nothing good on TV because it's all TV. There's nothing good on the internet because it's all cat videos now. Except for, obviously, us talking comics. So read it so you can talk about them. Give and take, I don't even know what I'm talking about. You guys have a good one. I'll catch you soon.